It was 1991. A young mother sat quietly in the backseat of a car, her 4-year-old son beside her, clutching her arm like any child would on an unfamiliar ride. There was no warning. No flash of light. Just the violent sound of metal crushing metal and then, silence. In a split second, Munira Abdullah's life changed forever. She had thrown herself over her son to shield him from the impact of a horrifying crash in the United Arab Emirates. Her body bore the brunt of the collision. Her son survived. But Munira never opened her eyes again. For the next 27 years, this is not just the story of a medical miracle. This is a tale of undying love, sacrifice, and the deep, mysterious connection between a mother and her child, one that no coma, no time, not even decades, could sever. How does a woman lie silent for almost 3 decades, and one day, just wake up? And how, after 27 years, does she recognize her son, now a grown man? This is the story of Munira Abdullah. Before the accident, Munira Abdullah was an ordinary woman with an extraordinary heart. Deeply devoted to her family, rooted in her Islamic faith, she was known for her kindness, simplicity, and strength. Born in the UAE in the early 1960s, she married young and quickly grew into her role as a devoted wife and loving mother. Her world revolved around her young son, Omar. Those who knew her say she never raised her voice, never sought recognition, and never stopped caring for others. Omar, her only son, was the light of her life. Every day, she walked him to preschool, made him his favorite meals, and whispered bedtime duas by his side. On the day of the accident, she was doing what mothers do best, protecting her child. Little did she know, it would be the last time she'd hold him as a child. It was a routine day in Al Ain. Omar's uncle was driving the family back from school. Munira sat in the back, her son beside her. Suddenly, a school bus appeared on the wrong side of the road. The crash was devastating. Paramedics arrived to find Omar shaken but unharmed. Munira, however, was unconscious. She had suffered a severe brain injury. There was no bleeding. No obvious broken bones. But her eyes wouldn't open. Her hands wouldn't move. She had slipped into a coma, a deep, unresponsive state that doctors described as vegetative. The prognosis was bleak. She will never wake up, the doctors said. But Munira's family refused to believe that. Especially her son. In medical terms, Munira had entered a state known as persistent vegetative state. She was alive, but completely unresponsive. She couldn't speak, couldn't eat on her own, and showed no signs of awareness. Doctors said her brain was too damaged. That recovery, especially after months, let alone years, was impossible. But to little Omar, she was still his mama. He visited her. Talked to her. Prayed by her side. Every birthday. Every Eid. Every year that passed, he'd whisper the same words. "I know you're still in there, mama. One day, you'll come back." While Munira slept in her bed, her mind silent, her body still, life continued outside her hospital room. Her son Omar, once just a toddler, grew up into a young man. But he grew up with a void no one could fill. Child light skin tone Omar. Other kids came home to their moms. I came home to silence. But I never stopped talking to her. Not once. He had no mother to teach him life lessons. No one to console him after heartbreaks. No one to guide him into manhood. Yet, Omar became something extraordinary, resilient, compassionate, hopeful. He studied hard. He worked to support his mother's medical expenses. Every achievement, he dedicated to her. And every hardship, he endured, for her. He once told a journalist, "I never felt she left me. I felt she was trapped inside her body, waiting. And I had to keep going." From 1991 to 2018, a total of 9,862 days passed. Doctors changed. Nurses came and went. Facilities improved. Technologies evolved. But Munira remained still. Silent. Unmoving. Mantelpiece clock 27 years, in limbo. Her family never gave up. They moved her from one hospital to another, from the UAE to Germany, hoping each time that something would change. That some miracle would reach her. They tried therapy. They tried experimental medications. And they prayed. Always prayed. People told Omar to let go. Some said she was nothing more than a shell. Others said he was holding on to a ghost. But he refused. He believed that love was more powerful than science. And faith more powerful than doubt. Then, one day, after nearly 3 decades of silence, something happened. By 2017, Munira's condition had stabilized, but doctors still gave her no chance of regaining consciousness. Her body remained curled, muscles stiff, her mind unreachable. But Omar had found something, a glimmer of hope. A state grant from the Crown Prince's Court in the UAE allowed her to be transferred to a specialized rehabilitation hospital in Germany, a place known for treating some of the most severe neurological cases in the world. When she arrived, she was in a minimally conscious state. The odds were against her. But we saw tiny signs, eye movement, a twitch of a finger. Something was still there. They tried advanced neurostimulation therapy, physical manipulation of the limbs, auditory stimulation, playing voices, music from her home. And one tool Omar never gave up on, his presence. He brought an old perfume she used to wear, Quranic recitations, even a cassette of his childhood voice, calling out, "Mama, wake up." Then it happened one day, as the doctors adjusted her position, Munira moved her hand, not randomly, but with purpose. A nurse leaned in closer. Omar sat up in disbelief. She blinked. Slowly. Then again. Then, barely audible, cracked like dry paper, her lips moved, she said. Omar. 27 years of silence. Broken by a single word, her son's name. At first, no one could believe it. But it was real. Her brain scans showed increasing activity. Her pupils tracked movement. She began to respond to basic questions, slowly, painfully, but undeniably aware. This is not just rare. It is nearly unheard of. A case like this defies conventional understanding of brain trauma recovery. She recognized Omar immediately. Despite the age in his face. Despite the beard. Despite having last seen him as a 4-year-old child, she knew. She looked at me and she knew. She kept whispering, "My son, my son." It was as if time had stood still for her, and only her. And now, she had awakened, in a world 27 years older. Think about it. The world had changed. Phones had evolved. Countries had transformed. Omar was now a man. But in her eyes, he was still her little boy. "Speaking head, you've grown," she said. "But I knew you'd come back." It was not just a medical miracle. It was something deeper, something spiritual. A moment science could observe, but only love could explain. Munira was awake. But her body had been silent for almost 3 decades. Her muscles were tight and used. Her voice, fragile. Her memories, a scattered map, fogged by time and trauma. Yet she fought. Rehabilitation began immediately. Physical therapy to help her sit upright. Speech therapy to coax each word from her lips. Mental exercises to rebuild the map of her mind. The first time she completed a full sentence, we cried. Not because of the sentence itself, but the effort and the emotion behind it. Her first full sentence? "Speaking head, where is my son?" She remembered everything about Omar's childhood, his favorite toy, how he used to fall asleep on her lap, the lullaby she whispered into his ears. But she didn't know about the years she lost. She didn't know about 9/11. Or smartphones. Or that the world had entered a digital age. For Munira, waking up wasn't just about returning to consciousness. It was like being born again in a foreign world. Imagine waking up from a dream and realizing the world you knew is gone. Munira had to relearn nearly everything. TV screens no longer had knobs. Phones had no cords. Her son, once a child, was now a man running a family of his own. She asked for her favorite perfume from 1991. It didn't exist anymore. She asked about her parents. They had passed away while she slept. Some truths were too heavy. So Omar took it slow. He showed her the world again, gently, like a mother teaches a newborn. He taught her how to swipe a phone screen, how to listen to music on YouTube, how to smile again, even when it hurt. There were days she cried. Days she didn't understand how 27 years could disappear. But every night, I reminded her, "You're here now. With me." Step by step, Munira gained strength. She began to sit without help. She laughed at jokes. She recognized faces from old photo albums. She even began to pray aloud again. After nearly 3 decades of silence, she wasn't just rebuilding her body. She was reclaiming her life. News of Munira Abdullah's awakening traveled faster than anyone expected. Woman wakes up after 27 years in coma and recognizes son. A mother's miracle stuns the world. Doctors speechless after UAE woman regains consciousness. From CNN to Al Jazeera, BBC to The Guardian, the world was captivated. Scientists debated the limits of neuroplasticity. Religious leaders spoke of divine intervention. Social media lit up with comments, prayers, and tears. People from every continent sent letters, emails, and gifts to Omar and his family. Some shared their own stories of loss. Others said they were inspired to believe again, in faith, in hope, in the human spirit. My mother's story gave people something rare, something precious in this world. Hope that never dies. Medical schools began studying her case. A few doctors called it a 1 in a billion recovery. Others said her brain had been in a locked-in state, only now emerging due to the perfect combination of therapy, familiarity, and human connection. But ask Omar, and he'll tell you. It was never about science. It was always about love. Today, Munira still requires care. Her physical movements are limited, her voice soft. But her mind is awake. Her heart is full. She prays daily. She talks with family. She watches videos of her grandchildren. She lives a present in a world she was once absent from. Omar remains by her side, son, caretaker, guardian, and greatest admirer. For 27 years, I gave her my voice. Now, she gives me hers. There's no Hollywood ending here. No magic reversal of time. Just the quiet triumph of a soul who refused to be forgotten, and a son who refused to give up. Munira Abdullah's story is not about waking up. It's about being remembered. It's about being loved through silence. It's about the kind of bond that not even time, or coma, can break. If you take one thing from this story, let it be this. Speech balloon: when love waits long enough, miracles don't seem impossible. They seem inevitable.